From the deep, dark hollers of Nye County, Kentucky, where the moonshine is strong, the stories are strange, and your neighbor is probably your cousin. This is Appalachia, not so quiet. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Appalachia, Not So Quiet. I am your host, Hillbilly Phantom, and as always, I'm joined by my wonderful wife, my lovely co-host,
Appalachian Shade.
How are you doing, sweetheart?
Good.
Doing good?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been a pretty good day.
If the snow will go away.
Yeah. So, I know we were supposed to have an episode last week, but Snowmageddon kind of happened.
Snowmageddon and water wanting to freeze off.
Yeah, we had a few
Internet
issues,
outages.
and I still had to go do my day job.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get to play podcast host all the time.
You leave me here to take care of the frozen water.
Yeah, all the issues. I'm sorry, but I was already out of work one day.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's hard to afford missing out on more than one day of work.
Yeah.
It's hard to afford everything.
During this time, it is anyway.
So we'd like to just apologize to everyone who was hoping and expecting a new episode last Monday, but we are back and we have a wonderful topic to discuss. We're going to be talking about some strange mysteries.
Weird stuff.
Some really weird stuff from around our area. I guess you could almost call this a kind of a part 2 to our Appalachian Triangle.
You can reference back maybe to our 3 episodes about the choir of angels and how they tie in with the Nephilim.
That's right. Yeah. What you're going to be talking about is a very broad subject, actually. There's a lot of different things all over the world to do with that, but we'll get there. First, a place we've mentioned a few different times and was a big part of that Appalachian Triangle episode and was even recently part of the giraffe possum episode as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm talking about Red River Gorge. Now, people be like, oh boy, more weird stuff at Red River Gorge. Well, this isn't some strange cryptid lurking in the woods, and it's not people disappearing or losing time in the area. This is actually something factual, real, something you can see with your own eyes. But it's still just as mysterious as all of those other things. Now, if you've ever been to Red River Gorge, you know that it kind of has this feeling to it. You've got these huge limestone spires rising like cathedral walls. The forest is thick and dense, and this is where you can really feel the age of Appalachia. It just feels old there, almost ancient. Now, what some people may not be aware of is tucked into those cliffs, carved into the very sandstone, standing for millions of years, are markings. Markings, some say, shouldn't even be there. Symbols, faces, shapes, patterns. They call them petroglyphs. Now, some of these are quite obviously ancient Native American carvings. The natives were very active in that area. Like I said, Kentucky, like we've mentioned before, Kentucky was a sacred hunting ground to almost all the tribes of Indians. Now, in case you don't know, petroglyphs are not the same as hieroglyphs. The hieroglyphics in the pyramids in Egypt and all that. Petroglyphs are images that are carved into rock surfaces, usually created by prehistoric people to convey cultural or religious significance. And hieroglyphs are a actual formal system of writing that was used in ancient Egypt. Even though they may seem the same, they're quite different.
They're kind of like wingdings. The wingdings.
Yeah, it's ancient emojis. And that's the reason they call these all of these petroglyphs is because that some of them are quite obviously ancient Native American carvings. And some of them are even pioneer era marks. So it's like the early pioneers.
Like Daniel Boone and them.
Yeah, that were coming into the area. They were making marks on these rocks to help, with navigating the terrain and all that. But they even noted back then all of the petroglyphs carved into the rock. And I'm sure they probably just assumed that it was all the generations of the local Native American tribes that had come through the area. But now with more modern analysis, we can tell these things, but some of them don't seem to fit into any timeline.
Yeah, they don't know what they mean.
So we're going to talk about some of these strange carvings at the Red River Gorge. Who made them, why they're here, why some people believe that maybe they're more than just art. Now, as we've mentioned before, Red River Gorge is part of the Daniel Boone National Forest. And as we've also mentioned before, the Daniel Boone National Forest is part of the Appalachian Triangle, where all these strange, mysterious things seem to happen. So it's not unusual that we would have some strange, mysterious symbols scattered throughout the area. It has plenty of sandstone cliffs, natural arches, and deep hollers. But long before climbers, hikers, or social media, people were already leaving their marks here. But some of the things they depict, some of these carvings are geometric, like spirals, circles, crosses. I saw one that looked like a tic-tac-toe board.
Well, you gotta do something when you're bored.
Yeah.
No internet back then.
I think the indigenous people played tic-tac-toe on the sandstone.
There was no internet back then.
Yeah, that's true. There was no internet. But some of the others appear to show human figures, some with elongated bodies, stick-like limbs, their arms raised. Some of these are animal forms, possibly deer and birds, but some of them look like creatures we can't even guess at. There are also symbols no one seems to fully agree upon, shapes that don't quite match known iconography, lines that seem intentional but unclear. Now, I've never actually went to Red River Gorge and went to the areas where these carvings are. I know there's several sets of them along the river somewhere, and then around Sky Bridge.
Yeah, you have to be underneath it to be able to see them.
But I did look at plenty of pictures all over the internet of these petroglyphs, and some of them almost look kind of modern.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if, like, some people just added to it.
Right. But, are modern people making their own petroglyphs? Now, some people even say that these carvings are maps, possibly pointing to sacred places, hidden water sources, or even lost settlements. Now, that makes sense. They could be leaving behind a little information for anybody else that might possibly be passing through the area. They were kind of helping out their fellow natives that were also traversing the land, hunting. Some also say they mark ritual sites, locations for ceremonies, visions, or communication with the spirit world. Now, I found that interesting because supposedly Appalachian Triangle, there's a lot of weird, almost spiritual stuff that goes on there. People have visions.
And the natives were very spiritual people.
Yeah, very, very in tune with nature. And there's even some people that say the carvings were made to warn people, not about animals or the terrain in the area, but about something else that may live there. Something unseen. Now, one of the strangest set of symbols is called the high rock. It contains an unknown script-like carving. It's often considered the most enigmatic rock tied to the Gorge region. The high rock carvings include dense, repeating geometric marks that resemble a coded language or symbolic script. The symbols don't resemble known Native American iconography from the area. So we have all kinds of carvings and paintings and other things that Native Americans have done. We know what their stuff looks like. This is not Native American.
This is either something before the natives arrived here or something.
Maybe even something else.
Yeah.
And nobody can seem to understand it. Like there's nothing else from the ancient world that even comes close to matching it. Shapes appear structured and repeated, suggesting intentional patterning rather than any kind of decorative art. No consensus exists on whether they represent ritual symbolism, storytelling, or an unknown symbolic system. The overall composition feels deliberate and systematic, unlike many more pictorial rock art sites. So this one is completely different. Now, this rock is actually located underneath a small rock shelter near the High Rock Fire Tower. So I guess you can just go up and look at this thing. It's right near one of the fire towers. I guess you're allowed there. I don't know. Scholars have debated whether this panel reflects, some kind of ceremonial code or some lost culture's symbolic tradition or some kind of abstract expression. They have no idea what this is. And honestly, when you look at the pictures of it, and yes, of course, we will try to get pictures up on Facebook, TikTok, all that. Actually have pictures of it. But the pictures of it, it looks like a language. I mean, this looks like, ancient Aztec or something like, if you've seen some of that kind of writing, it really does kind of look like that. Or even like Egyptian hieroglyphs. I mean, it kind of looks like that. But when you really look at it, you don't like you can't depict any specific kind of animal or anything like that. It's just all these lines that kind of look like symbols, but they, like I said, it almost has to be some kind of writing.
Or it could have been another game that they're like, we have to find your way out of the maze.
You think it was one of the maze games?
I think so, because you said they made tic-tac-toe.
I mean, could be. Yeah, maybe this was some form of entertainment for them, but it just seems really weird.
This is really in-depth and very detailed.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of have to look at it to understand what I'm talking about, but it's not just random stuff. And like I said, it doesn't depict any kind of animal or anything like that. It looks like, some kind of ancient writing. Now, there are other areas in the gorge that contain these abstract petroglyphs with no obvious subject matter. Examples include interlocking zigzags, dense line grids, spirals that don't match any common solar or cosmological motifs that they know of. A lot of these supposed experts are claiming that the spiral represents the sun or the moon. That's kind of what they've decided.
Or time.
Yeah, or time. Now, most Native American rock art is more along the lines of depicting, animals, the human figure, special symbols that they had assigned to their tribe or clan, and sometimes like stars, like cosmological events. But these carvings, they appear almost conceptual.
Something very educated made this.
Some think they could be a visual representation of sound or rhythm patterns, or these could even be symbols that are specific to tribes. It was knowledge amongst their people that was meant to be unreadable to others. Now, this is where it starts to get really interesting. Some of these actually depict human animal hybrids. Yeah. So, you know how we like to go on about the cryptids on this. Native Americans used to talk about Sasquatch. Well, they also had other creatures. So they would depict these strange creatures, animal heads, human bodies type of thing. And we've talked about many cryptids on this very show that are exactly that.
Done.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds out there to talk about, but yeah, we've done a few here. So this is something that the natives were talking about. Now, of course, these figures could be depicting mythic beings or spiritual transformation, some kind of vision, but some of them, I mean, look straight up like a nightmare. if you want to think about it, they have like really large heads, like the head is exaggerated. That could be on purpose, or maybe these things actually had really huge heads. They always seem to have these exaggerated features, giving them an almost otherworldly appearance. Now, like I said, these could be some kind of depiction of a vision a shaman had after sitting around a fire smoking on the old peace pipe or something, But I mean, still, yeah, they're there, and there had to be some kind of reason behind it. Now, some have said that there's a possibility of some kind of astronomical type of or cyclical marker is what some of these could be. They feature radiating lines, circular forms, and repeated notch patterns that may encode celestial or seasonal knowledge. It's possible the carvings could track time cycles, lunar phases, or ceremonial calendars, but no living culture explanation survives. So they can kind of theorize that maybe that's what some of these are, but they don't really know because they've never run across these kind of markings before.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
What was here?
Yeah. It just becomes stranger and stranger. Was there some other culture living in that area before the natives ever even came around? Maybe they were way smarter than what anybody
There's QR code
knew.
before QR
Yeah.
code
Yeah, maybe
was
those
a
are
thing.
QR codes. Anybody tried scanning them with their cell phone? They just seem, out of place. The styles are similar to some things, but not completely. Like there's been all this talk about this looks like some kind of Nordic symbol, but then an expert on Nordic writing or something looks at it and goes, "No, I mean it's kind of close, but it's not that symbol." But we have no idea what was here. I mean, it's been within our lifetime that we finally confirmed the Vikings, Leif Erikson, you know, they showed up in America long before Columbus did. They showed up in the northern part of North America. So it's possible some other cultures made it here before anybody even knew it was there. And of course, just like when our forefathers came upon this nation, they ran into indigenous people, natives that were already here. But who was here before that?
Right.
These petroglyphs are just really puzzling because there's no narrative really to any of the scenes. There's no kind of written record that we can read anyway. I guess they didn't impart this knowledge on some of the pioneers coming through the area. Maybe some of the natives knew but didn't tell. Or maybe they just told them what they had always been told because they didn't even know what they were. They were there. They had just kind of always been there. Maybe you just have to be in the right state of mind to understand the petroglyphs. Maybe it has something to do with the strange nature of the area, the whole magnetic field,
Right.
messing with people's head. Hey, maybe that has something to do with it.
I
Maybe all
guess.
these symbols are so strange because these people were being affected by that and they were like tripping out and they were just carving what they were seeing because the unique geography of the area, like we've talked about, causes these magnetic fields.
Mm.
It's just making them lose it. I just find it interesting and a little unsettling that these patterns they don't line up with anything known. Like I said, you can look at a lot of them, just like the experts have, and tell that they're 100% Native American. So they know for a fact certain ones you can explain away, but then these weird ones, they can't find any explanation and they can't find anything even close to it outside of there. Nothing like it's been found before or since. And I didn't even realize that we had these strange symbols, other than the Native American. I knew that there were petroglyphs there that the Native Americans had made and stuff. But I thought it was your typical Native American stuff, that you see in these caves and areas that they inhabited or traveled through often. You would see the painting of the deer, tell it was a deer because it had antlers,
Right.
and the Indian guy with his bow and arrow shooting it. You see stuff like that in these areas because the Native Americans inhabited these areas, frequented these areas, and they left behind their mark. Where did this other stuff come from? And why is it so much more ancient than the Native American stuff?
The one you just said, it was very time consuming. I mean, it had to be. It wasn't just a simple drawing.
Yeah, especially when you think about the tools that were available at that time. It would have took forever to carve that. There is another one that's kind of famous, and I think it's in Manchester, if I'm not mistaken. There's some kind of, I think it's called the Red Bird River Museum,
Hmm. Never heard of
but
it.
It's part of the same area there, the Red River Gorge. It's called the Red Bird River. Anyway, there's like some kind of slab of limestone, like 20 feet long, that broke off of this wall, and it had a bunch of these petroglyphs on it, and it fell onto the road, and they decided to pack it up. I assume it didn't break, I guess. It fell into the road, but I guess it's still in one piece. They packed it up on a truck and took it to this museum. They displayed it there in Manchester.
That's so weird. It fell on the road as well.
Yeah.
So,
And
it's
like
like
I
it's
said,
trying to get the attention.
yeah, it's trying to get attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this was during our lifetime. This was on December 7th, 1994. The 50-ton stone bearing the petroglyphs fell from a sandstone cliff above the Redbird River onto Kentucky Route 66 at Lower Redbird.
That's pretty cool.
And then they loaded it up and transported it to its present location in Rawlings Stinson Park in Manchester, where it is roofed over and fenced. But I'm pretty sure that this didn't have any kind of strange writing. It had a bunch of symbols that they attributed to a Cherokee chief named Chief Redbird. And that's where the whole area got its name from.
Right.
So, but I just thought it was very cool that we had these unexplained ancient writings right here in the Appalachian Mountains, right here in Kentucky.
And nobody knows what they say.
Yeah, nobody knows what they are. They some kind of alien language or some ancient civilization long lost. Why has there never been anything similar found? Was it a culture that was restricted to just that area? That seems weird.
But the detail of this writing is like, I don't think it was someone that wasn't educated. These are very intelligent beings, whatever they were.
Yeah,
Like, it's just,
it definitely seems that way. I guess just the way they're arranged. And I mean, it just looks like some kind of writing. It just has to be. And some of the symbols are repeating. It's really incredible to look at. So,
it had to be like a really advanced tribe or something. I don't
yeah.
foresee this tribe like being taken over by a common white man or anything if they had that much intelligence.
Yeah. Well,
classy.
the natives, they didn't have any kind of writing really. They just used symbols, symbolism. Like I said, they were more like the Egyptians actually, because they used pictures to represent words and phrases and things. That was how they did their writing. This looks like almost like it was some ancient culture's alphabet or something, you know? Yeah, it resembles some kind of language or code, something. Because, yeah, it's complex. It is very complex. Repeating patterns, grids, crosshatches, zigzag lines, all these kind of abstract shapes. Some of them you even think, oh, that kind of looks like a bird. And then you zoom in on it. No, it's just the way the lines are arranged makes it kind of look like that, but it's not. There's just no clear meaning. There's no way to decipher it, and there's no connection to anything else. They don't even know how old it is.
And did they say it compared to any biblical text or anything like that?
I don't know. They just said nothing matches it. But, it could be from that time period, though, or even older. See, we don't have any clue, like I said before, what was here before really the Pioneer Age. All we know is when they got here, there were native peoples. And I know there was a lot of disgusting things with them basically taking over and killing off these people. But still, as they traveled through the land, they met other tribes of these people, but it was just these people. But they had stories of other things that none of these poor white folk,
Yeah, the white settlers had seen.
yeah, none of them had ever even heard of before, and they're telling stories about these creatures, spirits, and all this weird stuff. And some of them actually became believers in this stuff because they started running into it. And that's where our Appalachian folklore comes from. Stories that were passed down from the Native Americans to the settlers. The settlers started realizing that the natives knew what they were talking about. And that kind of brings us around to where Shade is going to take us. When these settlers came in, they not only saw strange symbols carved into rock, but they found more strange things when they started digging around.
And talk about the native mounds. that's all over Kentucky.
Very
So,
famous. Learned
yeah.
about them in school.
The majority, though, are down toward western Kentucky, around like the Jackson Purchase areas.
Right.
The main ones now, a lot of them that are in central and eastern Kentucky have been dug up from farming and things like that.
Yeah, tragically.
But
I mean, I'm all for progress and all that, but yeah, it sucks that we had to destroy these things.
a lot of this happened before there was even archaeologists in our times, when they started
Yeah,
accidentally digging up these mounds and things like that. Nobody really knew
yeah. There
what was
wasn't a
going
lot.
on.
There wasn't a lot of people studying like
Yeah. It
these.
was like the 1900s before people
Yeah,
actually were studying bones and things like that.
yeah.
So,
There wasn't a lot of people doing it
yeah.
back in
So,
those days.
but now there's laws in place that you can't dig these native mounds and things like that. It's against the
Right.
law.
Yeah.
If you're out digging in your yard anywhere in Kentucky and you find a human bone, you have to like completely stop work, call the authorities. They call people to come in and see if it's recent or if it's a native bone per se, and they
Yeah,
have to
like a native burial
contact
ground.
the closest tribes that could be related and say, "Hey, we found this. What do you want us to do with it?" And they're like, "Nothing." They just bury it back. And I'm not sure if the government's like, "Okay, well, you can't dig here. This is sacred ground," or just
I'm
do what
guessing
you
they
got
do
to
something like
do, or
that.
they put
Yeah.
it in, a museum. I'm not sure.
Because yeah, I mean, even if your dog digs up a bone in your backyard, you got to report that.
Yeah.
You'll get in trouble if you don't.
Well, I mean, not one bone specifically, I guess, but if you see like,
Well, I'm talking about
several
if it is a
there.
obvious human bone,
Yeah.
there might be remains there.
Yeah.
Then yeah, you should report that.
So, but
You're expected
all
to.
of that is in place now. So, but a lot of these mounds that I'm going to talk about are around the Ohio Valley area, around Boone, Kenton, Campbell, Mason, Greenup, Boyd, along those areas. Even though, like I said, they stretch all over Kentucky.
Is that area also within the Appalachian Triangle? A
I
little bit
mean,
of it.
a little bit of it, yeah. It's
Okay.
like toward the top, tippy top.
Okay.
Kentucky River Valley, especially along the Ohio, are dotted with ancient burial mounds, and farmers have plowed around them. Kids have played on them nowadays, and settlers have dug into them with understandings of what they were disturbing. And when they did, they had plenty of stories to tell of what they found. So, one of the most important documents that I found for this whole conversation comes from 1784. And like I said, that was long before archaeologists were even real in the United States, like real science at all studied. And this letter was written by Urza Stiles, who was the president of Yale College at the time. And it was written to Thomas Jefferson.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Written to Mr. Thomas Jefferson. Huh?
Yes. So a lot of research had been going on in Kentucky. Everybody finding bones and everything, especially around Mammoth Cave area. And so they were sending these bones off. Now, some of them were like in the south, the more southern part of the state, where mammoth like, elephant like, were sent off and studied. Yes, that's what they were. But the
Okay. So
ones,
you're talking about the remains of mammoths
mm-hmm.
and things of that nature.
However, some of the bones that they sent in from northern Kentucky, like northeastern Kentucky, around the Ohio Valley area, this guy's kind of like, "Mr. President, I'm not so sure what you're sending me is of any animal at all that was around during this time. Like, there's no way that these large animals were nearby." And
Huh.
he's like, "These are large humanoid bones. These are giants. A lot of them measuring heights of 8 to 12 feet tall."
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wait a minute now. Okay, so this guy was, like you said, there wasn't really that many archaeologists
Right.
at the time. So was this guy some kind of expert, any kind of expert, or was he just?
He was just the president of Yale College.
Oh, okay. So he was a very educated man. So
Yeah.
he would
Yeah, I mean,
know
and
a little bit.
they studied them, and they had sent them over to, like, I think it was Germany or something like that, to study, and he studied them as well. And he's like, "This is like human like, but on a larger scale. This is not animal that
Huh.
we're looking at." He's like, "There's no way. This is giant human bones."
Very interesting.
And this was a letter written on June 21st, 1784, to Thomas Jefferson. Believe what you want, but this is not a mammoth.
Yeah, because they were finding a lot of mammoth bones, that's pretty crazy too, because the mammoth had been extinct for a while. So,
Right. And
and they were finding them laying
he's
around.
like, I'm taking this Native American oral tradition, like giant legends, seriously and possible. This is very likely with what we've discovered.
Well, there you
So,
go.
yeah.
See, that's another one of those strange stories that they heard from the natives when they got here were about giants. And some of those petroglyphs depicted giant people.
But he's like, there was no trade routes before then. There was no migration paths, no reason for massive bones to even be in this area.
Right.
So, where did these come from?
It didn't fit your typical Indian burial mound.
No. So, these giant skeletons have been found in several places, like I said, throughout Kentucky, throughout the United States, probably all over the world.
Yeah.
In the late 1700s and through the 1800s, Kentucky was being cleared fast. And so people were finding them more often. Fields were being plowed. Mounds that had sit untouched for centuries were flattened to make farmland and build cities and stuff.
Right.
So,
yeah, in the name of progress, we started flattening everything out. And in the process, discovered some giants, apparently.
There's another article that I found as well. It summarized a widely circulated article that, like, the 19th century had reposted an alternative history theory about giants in Kentucky and the Ohio Valley area. It was near Louisville, Jeffersonville, especially like the Corn Island area. It described ancient conflicts, massive burial grounds, legend figures said to be giants. And they found them there as well. So one of them, I wanted to say that they found 6 giants in one location, and it was 2 brothers. I've got the article here, and this was January 30th, 1876. It says 2 young men wandering in a large tract of wild forest in southeastern part of the country, so like southeastern Kentucky area. This is Louisville Courier Journal that done this one. So this is Adair County.
Yeah, okay, Adair County. Yeah, that's more central,
Yeah.
I guess.
Said that they discovered what they thought was a sinkhole or a fox den, and they proceeded to explore it. And I had a little trouble in making their way into the entrance, the cave. Became large enough to admit or that they were able to walk in. And they proceeded in the passage probably 150 yards when they emerged into a large picturesque gallery, which was like of the old mammoth itself. The room, according to the calculations, was about 150 by 100 feet, and it had like a variety of stalactites and stuff like that in it. And it was not things that you would naturally expect to find in a cave. It says about 5 feet from the ground, they noticed some strange characters or hieroglyphics neatly carved. So that would be back to your
There you go, back to the petroglyphs.
yeah, petroglyphs, but in the article it says hieroglyphs.
Right.
Neatly carved into the wall, which on close examination proved to be the headrock of a vault. A few minutes prying to loosen and disclose the view, the interior of an enclosed in the solid rock of about 5 by 10 feet, which contained the remains of 3 skeletons, which measured 8 feet 7.5 inches.
Whoa.
Yeah, and 8 feet 5 inches, and another one was 8 feet 4 3/4 inches in length. The heads were lying towards the east, each body parallel to one another. Beside them lay 3 huge swords, but they were so decayed that upon being touched, they crumpled to dust.
Whoa, man. They found this in Adair County?
Yeah, in a cave. Like at
That's
first they thought it was just a little sinkhole.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
That's cool.
After examining the remains closely, but they find nothing that would serve to throw any light at, people would be like, well, what's this? Because if they touched it, it would just fall apart. So
it was so ancient that everything was just crumbling when they touched it. Wow. And they said there were swords. So, I mean, if they were made of metal, it takes a long time for metal to get to the point where you touch it and it just falls apart. Well, I guess it's dependent on the metal.
So, yeah, this is saying it's near the Russell Creek area, like a cliff in Russell Creek area. So, in Adair County.
Well, that's cool. I had not heard about that one. I'd only heard about a few of them that were dug up in the 1800s, I guess, when there was a really big push on, like I said, people really really settling the land, like you said, flattening out for farms and digging wells and all this stuff.
This one is November 27th, 1902, and there were 5 giant skeletons were found 5 feet below the surface while excavating for a sewer, is what it says.
Whoa.
And this is in Petersburg in Boone County.
What year was this?
November 27th, 1902.
1902, digging a sewage line.
I don't.
And they found giant skeletons?
And there was another location close to Petersburg, Kentucky, in Woodford County, that they found a few more.
Holy cow. They're
Around,
finding giants all over Kentucky?
Yeah. And I've got news articles to back those up.
So this isn't like National Enquirer stuff either. They actually found these giant skeletons.
Back in 1877, that's called the Kentucky Giant. The body was secured in 1877 in an unknown location in Kentucky. It was largely believed the body had been stolen from a cemetery or a sacred mound.
Okay.
And this guy had stolen it, and he was trying to sell it for $500.
Okay.
Yeah. This Dr. Joseph Leidy and Dr. A.E. Foot, they were able to get the body and they put it on display at a museum. The body was shipped to Philadelphia in a barrel of alcohol and sold for $500. Yeah.
They shipped it in a barrel of what? There was alcohol in the barrel? I guess?
Yeah, I guess that
Maybe
was their way of preserving it or whatever.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
That's weird. Okay, so this exists? I mean,
yeah, it's still there.
Really? Holy, and how big is this skeleton?
I want to think this one was like 7 foot 9 inches or something like that. Yeah, but I mean,
that's not completely out of the realm of possibility, but I mean,
you don't see humans that tall.
Yeah, you don't
really.
see humans that tall
Not
usually.
knocking 8 feet.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there was a couple NBA players that were 7'7". Manute Bol was one of them. The other one, I can't pronounce his name.
That's not that common.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You can take a modern day NBA player and say, okay, humans can get close to that, but it's very rare. And usually, people who get that tall, it's a huge strain on their body. They don't live as long as people who are, the average height, like 6 foot or something.
Well, this says in 98, Dr. Guy Hensdale published an essay on this particular Kentucky giant, the skeleton. And, he predicted that it was between the ages of 22 and 24 upon his death, and that the bones had seemed to be fully developed at the time that they received them. So,
yeah. I mean, I guess it's possible. It could have just been a really tall guy. But, like I said, they don't make it long. And you would think back in those days, ancient times, when these mounds were built, I would say it would be even more rare. And I mean, none of it's unprecedented. The tallest human in history was Robert Wadlow, 8 foot 11 inches. So, I mean, there have been humans who have made it to what you could consider giant proportions, but some of these are way out of that possibility. There were some like 10 foot plus.
Yeah, there were some that, like I said, it said 8 to 12 feet tall.
Yeah. And we know that humans have reached the 8 foot mark. Like I said, tallest ever, 8 foot 11. So almost 9 foot. But we've never documented anybody 10 plus. Right. That's just crazy.
And then there was another article that I found as well. They were talking about this man and woman had went to this cave. I think it was in Glasgow, Kentucky, and found some more giant skeletons. And they didn't just find your typical tools or anything that you would find natives using or whatever. They even found instruments, like musical instruments with these bones.
Wow.
Yeah.
Musical, so like artistic tools instead of.
Yeah.
Huh.
And one of them was wrapped kind of in a white cloth around them.
Well, that's cool. So obviously it was some kind of item that was maybe important to that person, and they buried it with them. I wonder how large the instrument was or what it was. Probably wasn't much left of it.
I want to think it was like one of them was a harp and some like flute like instruments is what it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wonder if it's some kind of like gigantic flute, like a tree trunk. Yeah.
I mean, like there was tools there too, but like they just found it odd that there was
Oh, okay.
actually musical instrument type things there
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, that
So
would be kind of neat. But like I said, maybe this was something. Maybe this person was very musically inclined.
there was several of them. Like they ranged from 7.5 up to 12 feet tall. It was just different. They were all
Yeah,
different sizes.
that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Almost seems like they could have been a civilization all their own, a civilization of people that were much larger.
Yeah. I don't know. A lot of like scientists and archaeologists are like, well, these could have been people that had issues with their pituitary glands and things like that caused them to
Right.
grow out genetics. But that big group, you know what I'm saying? To find
Right.
several
That's what I'm
together
saying.
like that, like it's rare.
Yeah, it's such a rare thing for people to reach those heights that wow, how could there be a whole group of them? It's just it defies explanation. But there's been giants talked about all through history. The Vikings, the Nordic people, they had giants and trolls and things of this nature that were huge, 10, 12, 20 feet tall.
Also, there was articles that reference fossil impressions near like Berea and Rockcastle County area. And one described like human footprints, but times 10
Wow.
that they
Okay.
had found.
So giant footprints.
Mm-hmm. And
I'm guessing they didn't look like the typical, they found Bigfoot footprints.
of course, like geological studies identify them as non-human traced fossils. So they were like, no,
They belonged to something else.
yeah.
Well, it probably did,
Yeah.
but what if it was a big person? Like I said, I'm assuming that these prints, they would have to look human for people to say, hey, we found giant human footprints.
But that's the closest thing you could think to compare it to if it looked like a human foot at all. So
Right. Yeah, there's been all kinds of stuff like that found. And there's all kinds of stories. David and Goliath.
Mhm.
There you go. Goliath was supposedly some kind of giant. A lot of people boil it down to, oh, he was just a really tall guy. He was one of those 7+ foot guys, which is possible because he seemed to be an anomaly. He was specifically pointed out as being this big, tall guy. But what you're discussing, like you said, there's a whole group of them. So it's almost like it was another society of people that were big.
could these be the ones that were doing the writings in the gorge? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, you can't rule it out. You got some of these petroglyphs that are way up on these sandstone cliffs and stuff. It very well could have been giants carving these. Maybe they had a written language. And maybe the natives were just copying them.
Yeah.
When it comes to the whole mounds and everything, maybe they were the ones who originally did the burial mounds. And the Native Americans were just copying these
Right. This is the way.
giants.
This is the proper way to do it. So
Yeah. But there's been, you go, if you look it up, you can find just about anywhere in the world, they've found large bones. A lot of times they're just kind of scoffed at that, oh, it was some big animal, something like that. You can't explain some of them.
and then it kind of gets pushed and hidden away, like the government's hiding something from us because it dated back to the 1700s. The government knew about these big bones and kind of just went
Yeah.
silent about it, and then laws started coming in place that you can't dig these mounds. Just stop.
Yeah.
Don't look no more.
Yeah.
If you find something, call us. Leave it alone, and you never seen it.
Yeah, all the way back to Thomas Jefferson. Somebody is writing him saying,
That's not what you think it is.
These are giants. That's really cool that we may have had giants roaming around Kentucky. But here's the thing. Were they recent giants or were they like really ancient, like the Nephilim that supposedly roamed the earth before it was destroyed by the Great Flood?
Right? Did they all get killed in the flood?
Right? Did some of them survive over here in the Americas? Guess it's possible.
Right.
But supposedly that was one of the reasons God destroyed the world with the flood was to wipe out these Nephilim, these abominations that were created by the mating of humans and angels. I remember when I was a kid, you'd see the National Enquirer sitting at the newsstand there when you's waiting in line at the checkout at the grocery store with mom. You'd see the National Enquirer there, and then Bat Boy discovered in a cave in Arkansas, Goat Man discovered in Canada. But you did see a lot of giant skulls unearthed, and somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, one of these articles was from the Cincinnati. I think it was an Inquirer or whatever. So, I mean, to me, that seems like a legitimate news resource.
Yeah.
I don't know why they would report on it.
Now, of course, newspapers back in the day, they like to live off sensationalism.
Yeah.
So, of course, they would write these spectacular headlines, and sometimes it wouldn't be any big deal, but they were trying to make it into a big deal.
But this had evidence to back it up.
Right. You've got a skeleton, and they still have it.
Mhm.
They still have it at this museum of this gigantic skeleton that was pulled out of the ground. And there was a lot more that were pulled out of the ground. And supposedly people that were finding these things, they were sending them off to be verified or just to be preserved by the Smithsonian. And supposedly they're just gone. The Smithsonian just kind of lost them.
Yeah.
Are they trying to hide something? Or are they trying to cover up the fact that giants really did exist? Maybe they even know that they existed.
So the government maybe don't want us to know that they existed.
The government loves to cover stuff up. I don't know what the purpose would be. Could these giants be alien in some fashion? Well, they've always tried to keep the alien thing quiet. Or could they be proof of the Nephilim from biblical accounts, and maybe they don't want us to know that that was all real? But these giant skeletons that were found here in Kentucky seem in some way connected to the native peoples. Maybe it's just because the native people, like I said, followed in their footsteps and put their dead in these burial mounds the same as the giants did.
They definitely seen things before we seen things.
Right.
So,
and they had a long oral history, stories that were passed down about these things, about giants, about strange creatures, things that were here long before them, long before us.
Something had to tell them.
Yeah. I think some of these things could be even more ancient than what we believe. They're finding things all the time that keep pushing the timeline back.
It could be that, or like I know a lot of our soil here in Kentucky is, got a lot of alkaline in it, and that preserves bone really well as well.
Oh yeah. There's certain conditions. In fact, we watched something about Mammoth Cave earlier, and it was talking about a mummified body and the fact that the cool air and the minerals in the cave and everything contributed to mummifying this body, and it was like perfectly preserved when they found it.
Mhm.
And it was somebody that got killed by a rock falling on them from
a native
hundreds of years before. So yeah, it's entirely possible that some of those bones could be even more ancient than what we think. They could have just been preserved really well. I don't know if they're connected to what I discussed about the strange petroglyphs in Red River Gorge, but it's possible.
Well, they said they found, some in a cave with some of these giants. Well, I don't know.
I don't know if they would be the same or not, but because they said they never found anything like that. So, but it could be similar. It could be a variation of the same people. Different cultures, even on the same land masses, different cultures develop different writing techniques and things. Whatever the answers, it's just another one of those strange mysteries of Kentucky, of Appalachia, of this whole area. It's just something old and strange about it. We may never know the answers, but we're going to keep searching. And I hope that all of you will keep coming back and listening to our mysterious tales of Appalachia and Kentucky. One of the great things about doing this podcast is we've actually learned things about Kentucky that we never knew. And that's why we like passing on that knowledge to all of you out there. Keep listening to us. You can find us on all your favorite podcast spots: Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio.
Of course, follow us on Facebook and TikTok.
That's right. Be sure to check us out on the social media networks. We're going to post some of these pictures I know that Shade has some of those giant skeletons, photographic evidence of these huge beings that were unearthed in burial mounds right here in Kentucky. And of course, we will have pictures of some of those petroglyphs that are found in Red River Gorge, especially the high rock symbol panel that has that strange script written on it. Check it out for yourself and see what you think about it. Don't forget to like, share, comment, do all that stuff that's going to help us get out there, help our voices be heard by more people. And we'll hope you'll keep coming back and enjoying Appalachia, not so quiet. I'm your host, Hillbilly Phantom.
And I'm Appalachian Shade.
And we'll catch you on the next one. Till then, watch out for them boogers.